The Russian army is initiating an offensive toward Ukrainian positions in the Oryk direction, utilizing armored vehicles. As the vehicles advance, a powerful detonation suddenly takes place. One of the armored units encounters explosive devices deployed by Ukrainian forces. The heavily damaged armored vehicle continues its advance despite the impact, maintaining momentum toward the targeted position. Ukrainian artillery units are actively engaged, delivering intense fire toward the confirmed coordinates provided by reconnaissance teams. A sustained bombardment targets the route of the Russian armored vehicles. Several artillery strikes impact the armored vehicles directly, causing significant damage. Rising flames suggest that some vehicles are on the verge of being neutralized. This Russian convoy is now dispersing in multiple directions as the crew attempts to evade the artillery fire through sudden maneuvers. One of the armored vehicles is engaging Ukrainian drones, responding to the threat of a potential FPV attack. The enemy crew is visibly unsettled, reacting with urgent defensive fire in multiple directions. The artillery barrage is beginning to take its toll. An enemy armored personnel carrier has sustained significant damage, forcing the infantry inside to evacuate. Reconnaissance drones are closely tracking the movements of the enemy's armored vehicles. Artillery fire continuously targets the dispersed armored units across the area, now filled with smoke. The enemy vehicles are encountering substantial obstacles in their advance due to heavy damage. The crews are executing maneuvers to withdraw. The coordinated efforts of Ukraine's artillery and reconnaissance units are successfully repelling the assault. Enemy forces are compelled to retreat, with their armored vehicles suffering extensive damage. Ukrainian army FPV drones conducted a precise ambush on enemy vehicles in the Donetsk region. Ukrainian forces established a strategic ambush using fiber optic controlled drones along the enemy army's route. The drones remained positioned in the middle of the road. As soon as Russian vehicles entered the engagement zone, the drones promptly initiated their attack. Enemy forces were unable to evade the drone strikes. Ukrainian forces successfully established a decisive trap for the enemy during this operation. Enemy units moving through this route were effectively neutralized. At the same time, Russian armored vehicles were severely damaged. These drones demonstrate higher resistance to electronic warfare systems because they are controlled through fiber optic cables rather than conventional radio signals. Fiber optic drones are capable of conducting long-duration and reliable reconnaissance or attack missions without interference from enemy signals. Ukrainian FPV drones are activated after detecting the presence of a Russian soldier. The soldier begins to flee upon noticing the incoming drone. The drone operator carefully tracks the target, navigating through the air to execute a precise approach. The panicking infantryman struggled to run. The FPV drone managed to catch up with the Russian soldier in a short time. The infantryman kept making sudden maneuvers, almost spinning around his own axis. The drone operator continued to pursue the soldier with determination. He was trying to tire him out further. The Russian soldier attempted to use a small tree for cover, making quick maneuvers around it in a desperate effort to evade detection. The drone operator moved with precision and restraint, waiting for the right moment. With the soldier gradually losing strength, the operator continued to press forward. Eventually, the Russian soldier could no longer flee and resorted to crawling among the tree branches. The drone maintained its position, rising and adjusting its angle to keep the target in focus. However, the infantryman showed notable resilience, despite clear signs of exhaustion. The drone operator executed a series of swift and unexpected maneuvers around the target, catching him off guard. The sudden ascent of the drone into the sky further disoriented the enemy soldier. The drone locked onto the infantryman and dove with precision between the branches of the small tree. Moments later, a powerful detonation took place. The enemy infantryman was neutralized as a result of the explosion. A Russian soldier is advancing into a wooded area, closely monitored by reconnaissance drones. An FPV drone silently trails the soldier from above. Shortly after, the infantryman attempts to use dense vegetation for concealment. However, the FPV drone swiftly initiates a focused strike on the target. A powerful explosion follows, effectively neutralizing the soldier. The 61st Mechanized Brigade identified the presence of Russian soldiers in the village of Komar in the Donetsk region. The unit prepared to deploy precision drones to neutralize the threat. Reconnaissance drones had successfully located the positions of the enemy forces. Reconnaissance units were transmitting real-time intelligence. FPV drones had already begun targeting Russian infantry individually. Russian forces were utilizing this village as a staging area for their operations. Drone operators accurately targeted enemy soldiers taking cover in the abandoned village. The infantry was attempting to enter an underground shelter, but the FPV drone intercepted them at the entrance, effectively neutralizing the group. Following the explosion in the village, enemy soldiers began to move with visible urgency and confusion. Russian soldiers began rushing toward the nearest shelters. However, drone operators had already identified their positions. FPV drones launched focus strikes on the enemy forces attempting to take cover. As a result of these successive operations, all targets detected by reconnaissance drones were effectively neutralized. Two Russian armored vehicles are identified by Ukrainian reconnaissance drones. The reconnaissance drone begins tracking the enemy vehicles closely. Shortly afterward, the armored units attempt to conceal themselves within a forested area. The reconnaissance teams relay precise coordinates to the FPV drone operators. The FPV drone closed in on the enemy vehicle with precision. A powerful explosion followed the initial strike, sending black smoke rising from the armored unit. Reconnaissance drones continued to monitor the situation, tracking additional enemy movements. Another armored vehicle was observed in motion. Ukrainian forces activated pre-positioned mines along the route, successfully halting the vehicle. An FPV drone operator then approached the immobilized target and launched a precise strike. To ensure complete neutralization, several additional FPV drones were deployed. Each delivered effective blows against the armored vehicle. In the end, thick smoke rose from the area, marking the site where the Russian armored vehicles had first been identified and then decisively eliminated through a coordinated assault. You are witnessing a focused FPV assault on a Russian armored vehicle. Soldiers from the 3rd Air Assault Battalion of the 79th Separate Air Assault Brigade of the Ukrainian Army engaged enemy targets near the villages of Konstantinopol and Bogatyr in the Donetsk region using FPV drones. The soldiers of the battalion first conducted thorough reconnaissance in the villages. Following this, the operation was carefully planned. FPV drones executed precise strikes on Russian infantry units identified in the area. The enemy soldiers made the critical error of moving without caution. In the village of Univka in the Sumy region, 2 Russian soldiers entered a civilian area without authorization and moved toward a local resident's garden. At that time, Ukrainian Armed Forces aerial reconnaissance units stationed nearby were actively monitoring the surroundings using drones. Shortly after entering the garden, the Russian soldiers initiated hostile activity. They took positions around the house and were assessed as preparing to engage from within the civilian area. However, this movement was being monitored in real time. Given the urgency of the situation, Ukrainian forces immediately relayed the coordinates to FPV, first-person view, loitering drone operators. Targeting commenced. As soon as the sound of the first FPV drone was detected, the Russian soldiers appeared to panic. They attempted to conceal themselves in the garden but were forced to withdraw shortly thereafter. They abandoned the area due to the effects of the detonation. A soldier from a specialized unit known as Predator, operating under the Ukrainian police force, was engaged in clearing opposing positions. Movement was detected within a shelter. Ukrainian personnel first deployed a grenade into the narrow entrance of the structure, resulting in a significant blast. Familiar with the internal layout, the soldiers followed up with targeted fire at the entrance, aiming to fully secure the position and eliminate any remaining threat. Thick black smoke was observed rising from the shelter. Ukrainian soldiers proceeded with extreme caution, determined to ensure the area was fully secured. In the final stage, additional munitions were placed inside the shelter to guarantee the complete neutralization of any remaining threat. This approach left no possibility for opposing forces to remain concealed within the structure.